If you've ever played any first-person shooter game before, no matter what it is, be it Call of Duty or older Battlefield titles or honestly anything, Apex Legends, you name it, you've probably heard the age-old debate about aim assist on controllers versus mouse and keyboard. The debate is huge in so many different online gaming communities, but Battlefield 6 has kind of been having an issue where a lot of players are debating whether or not aim assist in this game is actually solid, whether mouse and keyboard has an advantage, things of that nature. For context, I actually play on both inputs. I've played on PC and I've played on PlayStation 5, mouse and keyboard and controller respectively. So I kind of have a good idea of how this game feels on both inputs, and I wanted to discuss today some news that apparently DICE is going to be changing the way aim assist is working in this game and quite possibly nerfing the current state of aim assist for controllers. So before we do that, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications set to all so you can stay up to date with all of the Battlefield 6 content here on the channel, and let's just dive right on into it. If you remember, before Battlefield 6 launched, there was a lot of talk about aim assist because many people who were going to pick up Battlefield 6 happened to also have been Call of Duty players that were kind of getting a little bit bored with the current state of Call of Duty's titles. And so for context, I guess I'll explain here if you're not super familiar with the Call of Duty debate on aim assist. Basically speaking, so many people believe that aim assist in Call of Duty is broken. It's just basically like a soft aimbot, it locks onto players, and it makes mouse and keyboard in Call of Duty basically exist at a complete disadvantage, which as someone who's played on both inputs on the recent Call of Duty titles, I can tell you that yes, controller does have a pretty solid advantage when compared to mouse and keyboard in Call of Duty. Aim assist in that game is really strong, and there's a lot of people that kind of say, well, mouse and keyboard, you've got your whole arm to aim with, things like that, but unless you're actually a really good player with mouse and keyboard, unless you've put in a lot of hours in aim training, most likely you're not going to be at a huge advantage in Call of Duty. And even so, people who have aim trained, people who are really good with mouse and keyboard in most competitive FPS games have been struggling with Call of Duty lately, and pretty much all the pros play on controller. So that context aside, when it comes to Battlefield 6, one of the things that the developers talked about from DICE before this game came out was that they wanted the aim assist to be less intense than in other games. And obviously they're probably referring to Call of Duty when they say that. And they wanted the aim assist to feel less strong and more human input related. Like they wanted you as a player to actually feel like you earned the shots that you're taking in this game. Basically implying that you have to be better at aiming in general with a controller and not rely too heavily on aim assist. And a lot of people really liked the way that it worked in the open beta. A lot of people were fans of the strength of the aim assist, the strength of how controllers operated in that game during the open beta, and of course, most people assumed that that's kind of how it was going to be when it launched. However, it looks like when Battlefield 6 launched, the aim assist was actually completely changed, and it was made much stronger than it was during the open beta. So basically what's happened, and if you've probably noticed this yourself, let me know in the comments if you have, I noticed this exact thing, where it felt like there was a lot stronger aim assist than I had actually been anticipating. And the aim assist had more rotational persistence in the game's launch state, and it has more what they call stickiness. So it actually kind of helps you lock onto the enemy and it sticks there so that it looks like you've got almost perfect aim. And so a lot of people have been commenting about this in the Battlefield 6 community because a lot of Battlefield players are PC players with mouse and keyboard inputs. In fact, the game sold quite a good few million on Steam. Chances are those are vast majority going to be mouse and keyboard, not necessarily just controller with a PC. Many mouse and keyboard players were complaining that aim assist was too intense in Battlefield 6, that it was repeating the same issues as we saw in games like Call of Duty, that it was becoming difficult to fight against a soft aimbot type system. Meanwhile, many console players were saying that controller is not that great in Battlefield 6, that the aim assist is not that strong, and that basically if you're on mouse and keyboard, you effectively have almost no recoil and significantly more control over your weapon than a controller player would. Mouse and keyboard definitely has the advantage in that you've got significantly more control over the way you're aiming, the way you're moving, and the way you are actually firing in this game. Recoil feels pretty relatively non-existent anyways because in Battlefield 6 there's bloom, not really recoil the way that you have in other video games, but mouse and keyboard's advantageous in that you have full control. On controller, it's definitely harder to aim because of the fact that you have to orient multiple things all at once. It's not like you're just using mostly a mouse to kind of position yourself. You've got joysticks, you've got buttons, things like that. And for someone who has never really been a super big controller player, for me, controller is just harder than mouse and keyboard, but of course, for people who are used to controller, mouse and keyboard might feel harder at first. You can get better on both by playing excessively, but the point is, in Battlefield 6, I felt personally that mouse and keyboard had a better experience than controller did. And if you were on a PC, you obviously had a significantly better experience than on a console because you've got uncapped, basically, frames. So really, if you have a strong PC, you've got a pretty solid advantage in Battlefield 6 in terms of multiple things like visibility and frames per second. Now, during the open beta, the aim assist did feel different than during the, obviously, launch version of the game. And we can see that that actually was different because the devs basically said that they're going to be reverting aim assist back to the way it was during the open beta. I'm not sure if this is because they noticed some internal data that changed things for them, or if it's because mouse and keyboard players were just complaining too much like some people are saying. I personally do feel like Battlefield 6 for controller is not the friendliest game ever, and it's very different compared to the Call of Duty controller experience, because in Call of Duty it's kind of effectively aiming for you. So what I think Battlefield 6 kind of messed with was the stickiness, and I think that this was kind of the biggest issue, where your aim starts tracking and it's difficult to kind of orient it yourself. You almost have to break the way it's actually aiming for you, and I think this was the biggest issue, and I think that's exactly what they're going to be fixing, which is that rotational persistence and stickiness. For the most part, I think that what Battlefield 6's aim assist should feel like, as somebody that's playing on both inputs, is that I think it should feel a little more you than just machine. And basically, like I said before, I feel like currently the aim assist is kind of too strong sometimes, to the point where it makes you actually mess up, and I've had to decrease the actual amount of aim assist on controller, and in the current way that this game is sort of implementing aim assist, it just doesn't feel right. It feels very much like it's attacking your aim, and it's not actually helping you. I think aim assist should be, in a way, just something to help you orient yourself slightly, but it shouldn't be basically kind of tracking, if that makes sense. With rotational aim assist, you notice that a lot, where it feels like it's tracking the enemy. So I think that the adjustment isn't necessarily a bad thing. Of course, I would have to actually see after playing it this way how it's going to end up being like if they nerf it, which it looks like they are going to be changing it in a new update, and they are apparently going to be making adjustments to the recoil in Battlefield 6. So those two things are apparently separate mechanics, but they're going to patch them at the same time. So we should be seeing recoil reductions and aim assist improvements, which I guess should help balance out the way it's going to feel when they change it. I think right now though, aim assist and of course recoil aren't necessarily the biggest issues that are related to how this game is working. I think hit registration and netcode are definitely big problems right now. Hit registration sometimes just doesn't make any sense, which is affecting the TTK. It's affecting when you turn a corner and still somehow get hit. And also the other problem is that visibility is kind of messed up a little bit because of the color palette on some of the maps, making it even more difficult to actually see what's going on around you at any given time. So there are still a couple of issues that I think are a little more important to see fixes in than just the aim assist, though of course I do think aim assist should be fixed so that it doesn't actually feel like it's literally breaking the way you're moving in this game. But I do think that ultimately mouse and keyboard does have an advantage in Battlefield 6. You can easily compete if you're on mouse and keyboard in this game. It's not at all the level of bad that it is in Call of Duty in any capacity. I played the Black Ops 7 open beta, I've played Battlefield 6, I can tell you, Battlefield 6, it's a very, very different experience. It's so much better to play on mouse and keyboard than it was in Call of Duty. So do I think that people might be exaggerating at the strength of the aim assist in Battlefield 6? I do kind of think that people are exaggerating. I don't think it's as bad as some people are making it out to be. I think there should be a good balance for everyone, so no input feels like it's got a heavy advantage, and so everyone can actually have fun and compete in this game. There's going to be a lot of people who won't be satisfied no matter how much you change the way these inputs work. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How are you feeling about the possible nerfing of aim assist in Battlefield 6? Leave a like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications set to all so you don't miss out on another upload. And that's all for today, folks.